All right, let's talk about this one. Because I get it. I really do. I genuinely understand why so many fans walked away from that game against the Patriots feeling frustrated, disappointed, maybe even disillusioned. Watching your team play like that, even in a win, doesn't always feel like something to celebrate. But let's take a breath here. Let's zoom out. Because what happened on that field in Foxborough might not have been pretty, but it wasn't meaningless either. Now, first things first. Yes, the final score was 21-14. That's not a dominant win by any means. That's not a blowout that makes the rest of the league take notice. But in the NFL, winning is the point. And as far as that objective goes, the Steelers got it done. That's not a moral victory. That's not spin. That's the actual scoreboard talking. And if you're in that locker room, if you're one of the guys who just went out there and gave everything they had for 60 minutes, you're allowed to smile. You're allowed to enjoy that plane ride home. Because that win, scrappy or not, counts the same in the standings. And let me tell you something, talking to the players after the game, you could feel that vibe. There wasn't arrogance. There wasn't delusion. There was a sense of, we got it done. Now let's go back to work. One of them even told me, smiling, let us enjoy it today. We'll deal with the film tomorrow. And honestly, I respect that. Because they're not ignoring the issues. They're just choosing to take a moment before diving back into what they already know needs fixing. But here's the part that surprised me. As ugly as that game looked at times, and trust me, it did, I actually found more things to like than I expected. Not because I was looking through rose-colored glasses. Not because I'm trying to paint over the flaws. But because when you look a little closer, when you rewatch certain plays, when you talk to the guys about what they saw and what they were trying to do, some things start to make more sense. Let's start with Jaylen Warren. Stat sheet says 18 carries for 47 yards, barely over 2.5 per attempt. Not exactly eye-popping, right? But that number doesn't tell you the whole story. If you were up in that press box like I was, especially from the vantage point you get in Foxborough, where you can actually see how the plays are unfolding, you'd see something different. You'd see the offensive line struggling to open up consistent lanes. You'd see a Patriots defense stacked to stop the run because the passing game didn't threaten them enough to back off. And still, Warren kept pushing, kept grinding. He was finding daylight where there wasn't much to begin with. He was doing what you want a number one back in this league to do, creating something out of nothing. Imagine what he'll look like if this offense can start stretching the field and forcing defenders to respect the air game. That's when you'll really see what he can do. Same thing with Calvin Austin. I know people are quick to nitpick what a true WR2 should be, especially when you've got a star like DK Metcalf drawing all the attention. But Austin made the play that won the game. And it wasn't a routine catch either. That ball from Rodgers wasn't perfect. It was underthrown off to the side. Austin had to adjust mid-route, come back to it, and still make the grab under pressure. That's not just about speed. That's about awareness, hands, confidence. That's what a team needs in clutch moments. And I know people have been hammering the offensive line all season, and yet a lot of that criticism has been fair. But let's give credit where it's due. The Patriots came into that game with more sacks than any other defense in the league. They were absolutely ready to bring the heat. Mike Vrabel made it clear. They were coming after the quarterback all day long. And yet, 0 sacks. None. Now, sure, the offense did a lot schematically to protect the line. Maybe even too much. But still, 0 sacks. That doesn't happen by accident. That takes execution. That takes communication. That's progress. I talked to Troy Fatanu afterward, and he didn't sugarcoat anything. He acknowledged the ups and downs, the stall drives, the pressures, the 3-and-outs. But he also talked about focusing on the details, getting better as a group, and learning from each rep. You can hear in his voice. He's not satisfied, but he's engaged. He's invested. That matters. And look, I'm not handing out gold stars for guys doing what they're supposed to do, but it's still worth pointing out that Cam Hayward and TJ what looked like themselves again. And that's huge. Because imagine for a second what this team would look like if either of them, or both, started to show signs of age. We're not there yet. Not even close. They're still wrecking games, still forcing offenses to account for them every snap. That's the baseline this defense is built on. I'm not going to overlook what DeMarvin Leal did either. It wasn't just a sack, though that was nice. It was the way he played within his limited snap count, coming off an injury and still giving everything he had. No hesitation, no signs of holding back. That's the kind of effort you want from your depth guys. That's the kind of stuff that makes a difference down the stretch. And then there's Brandon Echols, stepping in for Joey Porter Jr., getting thrown into the fire and making one of the toughest plays of the game. That interception in the end zone. The ball got tipped by Cam, which makes that pick even harder than already was. Changing direction midair? Not easy, but he did it. And then, on the very last play, with everything on the line, he made the tackle that sealed it. Perfect form, perfect timing. That's execution under pressure. I asked him about that final tackle, and his answer was pure instinct. He read the play, saw the quarterback's eyes, broke on the ball, and just finished the job. No hesitation, no second guessing. That's the kind of situational awareness this team has been missing lately, and it couldn't have come at a better time. So no, this one wasn't flawless. And no, it doesn't magically fix everything that's broken. The offensive schemes still need a major overhaul. Too predictable, too static, too easy for defenses to read. The third and fourth down conversions are still a mess. And there's no magic switch that's going to suddenly turn this group into a juggernaut overnight. But let's not pretend like there weren't legitimate, tangible positives to take from this game. These weren't flukes. These weren't lucky bounces. These were real plays made by real players in real moments. And sometimes, that matters more than the final scoreline suggests. Now, of course, no one's saying this team is fixed. Far from it. If anything, what this one really did was shine a spotlight on how many little things still need to come together before anyone can talk seriously about the Steelers as contenders. Because despite the good, despite the playmakers stepping up in the clutch, there's still this looming sense that it's not quite clicking yet, that the machine is grinding through the gears rather than running smoothly. And that's especially true when you look at the offense as a whole. Let's be honest, the rhythm just isn't there. You can see it in the way drives start and stop, in the inconsistency between play calls, and the total lack of momentum. They'll get a decent chunk on first down, then follow it with something completely off script or overly cautious, and just like that, it's third and long again. It's been that way for weeks now. There's no flow, no tempo, and certainly no identity. It's like they're trying to be too many things at once without ever fully committing to any of them. You've got talented players across the board, weapons who can create separation, linemen who are learning, a quarterback who can make all the throws, but they're not being set up for success. Not consistently. And that's where the frustration really kicks in, because you can see the potential. You can see what this group might become with better coordination and more trust in the game plan. But you also see how often that potential gets wasted on predictable play calls, soft formations, or an overly conservative approach that seems more worried about avoiding mistakes than actually attacking the opponent. That's not how you win in this league. Not in the long run. Take the third down situations, for example. It's painful. Way too often, they're walking into those plays with defenses already knowing exactly what's coming. There's no disguise, no motion, no creativity. It's just straight-line football. And when everyone on the field knows what's about to happen, the results speak for themselves. That's how drives die. That's how time of possession gets skewed. That's how you leave your defense gassed by the fourth quarter. Now, is some of that on execution? Sure. Guys still miss blocks, receivers drop passes, and the quarterback sometimes misses the window. But the larger issue is systemic. You can't keep asking players to perform miracles within a scheme that's not helping them. You can't expect magic out of structure that's this rigid. It's like watching a band where every musician is talented, but the conductor has no idea what tempo they're supposed to be playing. That's why you hear players talking more and more about details. That's not just a buzzword. It's code for the fact that things aren't fully installed or fully trusted yet. And in football, that delay, that moment of hesitation between the snap and the decision, is the difference between a gain and a sack, a first down and a punt. So yeah, you can talk about improvements on the line, you can praise the receivers for stepping up, and you should. But until the structure around them improves, until the offense as a whole starts playing with clarity and confidence, it's going to be an uphill battle. That's why this idea of switching Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu, as floated by some fans, sounds more like desperation than strategy. It's not a totally wild idea, and no, it's not stupid. When things are struggling, you have to explore every possibility. But even with the way Jones has looked at left tackle, and yes, it's been shaky, flipping the midseason might create more problems than it solves. Because the offensive line is all about cohesion. It's 5 guys moving as one. You start swapping positions, and suddenly it's not just one player learning something new, it's the entire unit having to recalibrate. The left guard has to adjust, the right guard has to adjust, the center has to pick up new communication cues. That's not something you do lightly. Now, maybe you try in the offseason. Maybe after you've had time to break it down on tape, to coach it up, to actually practice it at full speed. But right now, during a stretch where the offense is already fragile and the quarterback already doesn't have much margin for error, that's a dangerous game. What you really want is for the current group to start building something stable. Not by rushing them, not by forcing a change for change's sake, but by getting them to grow together piece by piece. That's the only way you go from 5 individuals to one offensive line. And make no mistake, that process isn't close to finished. Mason McCormick, for instance, had a rough one. On film, he was the guy who struggled most, more so than either tackle. That doesn't mean he's a bust or that he can't improve. But it does mean this group is still finding its way, still figuring out its chemistry. And that takes time. Not just games. Snaps. Representatives, adjustments. It's a grind. You can feel it in the way they talk, too. You hear a guy like Fatanu speak, and you hear someone who's not just trying to survive out there. He's trying to learn. He's aware of what's going wrong, but he's not overwhelmed by it. That's encouraging, because development on the offensive line isn't about making a giant leap all at once. It's about stacking wins. One block here, one better communication there, one cleaner pocket. That's how it starts. But of course, this all feeds back into the big picture, which is that this team is still in the middle of figuring out who it is. Are they a team that leans on their defense? Absolutely. That's been their anchor. But even the best defenses need support. They need help from an offense that can sustain drives, that can score when the opportunity is there, that can take the pressure off and allow them to play fast, aggressive football without always being on the brink of fatigue. And look, you saw glimpses of that balance against the Patriots. You saw guys making clutch plays, stepping into roles they hadn't had before, seizing the moment. And that's worth celebrating. Not because it makes them a complete team, they're not there yet, but because it shows what's possible when the individual pieces start clicking. You saw what can happen when guys just trust themselves and go make plays. The challenge now is building on that, turning isolated flashes into consistent identity. Because the teams that matter in December and January, they're not guessing anymore. They know who they are. They know what they do well. And they know how to lean into that when the pressure is at its highest. That's where the Steelers need to get. And they're not going to get there by hoping. They're going to get there by coaching it better, by executing it cleaner, and by committing to a version of themselves that actually works. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFL season was rocked this Tuesday by a scandal that promises to shake the league's very foundations. Unofficial but highly reliable sources reveal that the game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and New England Patriots, played this past Sunday, was officially canceled due to irregularity, leaving fans and analysts stunned. The news has been circulating behind the scenes since the end of the matchup, but the league only confirmed the annulment after an emergency meeting between executives and commissioners. Inside Gillette Stadium's locker rooms, the atmosphere was reportedly one of complete shock. Players and coaching staff, who initially celebrated the Patriots' narrow victory, were blindsided by the ruling. According to rumors, the irregularity involves a technical issue never before seen in modern NFL history. Insiders suggest that performance measuring equipment used to monitor reaction time and passing speed may have shown inconsistent data, raising suspicions about the legitimacy of the outcome. There is no official word yet on whether the game will be replayed or if the result will simply be erased from the season standings. In league corridors, however, speculation is rife that this cancellation could set a controversial precedent, calling into question future matches if similar discrepancies occur. Fans reacted instantly on social media, with hashtags like hashtag game canceled and hashtag NFL chaos trending, while sports analysts debate whether this incident could affect the playoff race. Experts point out that, even as a still unconfirmed rumor, the NFL's decision shines a spotlight on game oversight and the integrity of the competition. Some speculate that this episode may lead to rule changes and stricter verification protocols to prevent similar situations from happening again. For now, both the Steelers and Patriots await official instructions, while fans of both teams oscillate between disbelief and frustration. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, other teams are reportedly watching the situation closely, with some players questioning whether performance tracking technology could truly influence the outcome of critical games. The NFL, known for its strict enforcement of rules, promises a thorough investigation, but the speculation is already spreading, leaving one certainty. This will be one of the most talked about and debated incidents in recent league history. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.